Hello everyone, it's Susan from PaperCraftCentral and Susan Salutations in Australia. Wishing you a good afternoon, this winter afternoon in Australia. Today I'm going to show you a very simple technique. It's been taken from Laura Buchler's suggestions. She called it the painter tape technique, but I'm going to call it the washi tape technique because I don't have any painter's tape. But I am going to use my widest piece of washi tape to create an ombre effect on a piece of cardstock. So what I'm going to do, this card is a very simple one layer card, and it's going to be a card you might like to consider for bulk thank you cards or notices of a special event, or all kinds of reasons that you could use this card. But I'm going to make a few birthday cards with it. And I'm just going to start with a piece of Whisper White that is 9 centimeters by 13, which in Imperial is 3.5 inches by 5 1/4, something like that. But it really depends on the width of your ink pads, or the height of your ink pads. Okay, so for this occasion I'm going to use some green colours. I'm starting with soft sea foam and mint macaron, coastal cabana, granny apple green, and shaded spruce. And I may call in some pretty peacock too, depending on whether or not I have enough room at the end of my card. And I'm going to use a large stamp. This time I'm going to use the Good Morning Magnolia stamp. It's a nice large open stamp. And I'm going to use a simple sentiment stamp. This one is from the Band Together stamp set. And I'm going to use my washi tape and some, also I need some Memento ink, Tuxedo Black. Alright, so I'm just going to put the camera down so you can see my workspace, and I'll be back at the end to show you a couple of cards. Okay. So if we just make it go down a little bit more, that should do it. I'll just tighten that off there. Okay, you can see my hands. Alright, so for this technique I'm going to start with my Whisper White in portrait mode. I'm going to open all of my ink pads and use them in landscape mode, because you will notice that your ink pads are about, I need to keep these in order, they're about 9 centimeters wide, like that, yes, or 3.5 inches long, I guess. And that's what you want. You want to be able to bring them right across your whole piece of Whisper White. I'll show you what I mean. Alright, I've got some retired washi tape here, and I'm going to just make it wider than my card base, my cardstock piece, and I'm going to start with the lightest color, and I'm just going to lay this washi tape down and ink it up by running my finger back and forth on it and just gently lifting it off my ink pad. And then I'm going to run it across my piece of cardstock and just smooth it out there and gently lift it away. Now hopefully you should be able to see that light color of ink. While I'm shutting this one up and taking the next one, I'm going to keep my washi tape attached to the paper, the cardstock, the scrap paper underneath, because it tends to curl up if you let it go. So this next color is mint macaron, and it's the same thing. I'm just going to lift off some color there and place it beneath that soft sea foam and peel it off. The other thing you do when you lay your washi tape down on your scratch paper is you take off some of that ink so you don't contaminate your next ink pad as much. And this one is Coastal Cabana. I'm going to use it next. Same thing. I think you're getting the idea of the pattern. Just going to lay that down across here. Don't be worried about leaving some spaces. Like Laura said, it doesn't matter if there's some white spaces in between. Ooh, that's pretty. Always love this colour. It's one of my favourites, Coastal Cabana. The next colour will be Granny Apple Green, and it may or may not be lighter than the Coastal Cabana. I could have used Bermuda Bay, I suppose, in here. There's so many other greens that you could choose from the Stampin' Up range of inks. Well, no, I like that. That's going to be fine. I hope you can still see me. Just move it up a little bit. And the last colour, unless I choose to use some Pretty Peacock as well, this is Shaded Spruce. So we'll just grab some of that ink. I'm being fairly light-handed with this. Whoops. Yes, I think I will want my Pretty Peacock, so I will just grab that. If you can hear any banging in the background, my husband's doing something outside. Okay, the Pretty Peacock is just darker than the Shaded Spruce. It'll be interesting to see how that looks. And just take some Pretty Peacock and place it under that Shaded Spruce. So then you have a nice ombre effect. It may, I'm wondering how it will look in the video. There is a difference between these colours when you look at them in real life. So now you can see you've got a nice ombre effect. If you had wider ink pads, you could go across, but you can always, of course, do a different shape cardstock for this, card base for a card that you had a idea to make a smaller element for the front of your card, or even use it on a scrapbook page. My friend Sharon Dalton has used this technique recently on a scrapbook page. She's with Scrapbooking Global on Facebook. Okay, so there we go. I've just inked up this large stamp. I always ink up like this when the stamp is large. I lay it down on its back, and I may even bring the cardstock to the stamp, but in this time I'm just going to lay it down on my finished piece and give it a good press. You always want to make sure there's good contact with your stamp when you use a large stamp, and then just lift it straight up, and there you have it. That's beautiful. I like this stamp. I think it turns out lovely every time. I'll just wipe that off with my very well used Stampin' Chamois. And I left the space down the bottom on purpose because I wanted to put my sentiment down there. So I'm going to do that now too in Memento Tuxedo Black. And I think I'm going to put it off to one side. Yes, I think that goes better with the card. You could, of course, put it in the middle, stamp some more images if you wish. That's looking pretty good to me for the purpose I had in mind. I think this is going to be a very nice birthday card. Okay, and then I just have a piece of Mossy Meadow here, which you can see tones in with all of the greens that I've used from Stampin' Up. So I've just made it with a small border. I've cut it 1/2 centimetre bigger than my cardstock, so 9.5 by 13.5. And I'm going to, my Whisper White piece is 9 by 13, and the Mossy Meadow is 9.5 by 13.5. And then I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal. You may not have seen this yet. It's new to Stampin' Up. You just use a light hand with it and rock your hand backwards. Don't try to check mark with it because it won't break so easily. And I also find if I go a little bit slower with it, it lays down very nicely. I'm really liking this actually. So there, we've got that layer all glued, and I will just attach it to my Mossy Meadow layer. And just, oh, instead of doing that, I'll smooth it from the back. And then this one has a little cover on it, so you always put that on so you don't pick up hair and bits of cardstock and things like that on your card. And I'm just going to use some bits of Stampin' Dimensionals because I want to raise this layer up on my card base. And I need about 5 of those pieces. So I'm just using my bits and pieces up at the moment. I never waste any of this. These Stampin' Dimensionals, because the outside edges are just as sticky as the little hexagonal pieces that you get. See how inky my fingers have been getting from the from the other cards I've made with this technique, which I'll show you in a minute. Now a lot of people just use their take your pick tool to take the backs of these off. I find I always have a little bit of fingernail, so I can do that myself with my nails. And it's all done very quickly. And I'm just going to center it on this card base. This is a soft seafoam card base. And I'll be done. I might just stamp a little envelope, stamp a sentiment on the inside, and put my acknowledgement stamp on the back, and then I'm done. So there you go, a nice birthday card in a few minutes with tones of green. I've done a couple of other ones in our orange shades and in pink and in blue. So I've used a few different colours today from our Stampin' Up! Range. There's almost 40 colours in our range, so it's easy to find some ombre effects amongst them. And that's my washi tape idea. So I hope you enjoyed that. Just bring you back up again to say goodbye. And I shall post some more ideas as I find them or reinterpret them and as I create them. So I hope you enjoyed today. Have a good afternoon wherever you are, or evening or morning. And if you want any of these supplies, remember that you can get them from my Susan Salutations store in Australia. So just some of the stamp sets I used today. The Good Morning Magnolia set comes in a double container, and the Band Together one is a single stamp set. Okay, and when you do go to my store, please choose me as your demonstrator. My full name is Susan Hurley Luke. Okay, thanks for joining me today. See you next time.